Hello, everyone. This is Leo with One Happy Widow. Hopefully, my settings are okay. If you can hear me just fine, then that's great. If you can't hear me, if it's too loud or too soft, make sure you let me know so I can try to do some adjustments if possible. So, and Mary, I see you so much on the group. She says that because of the time, because I'm usually like in the middle of Sunday for us, because it's a little later, she is able to catch the live today because she's in Australia. So, hello, Mary. Thank you so much for joining us live today. So, feel free to introduce yourselves and let us know where you're from if you'd like to do that. It has been, I am ashamed to say, but it's been weeks. It's probably been 5 or 6 weeks since I've actually done a video of any kind, live or recorded. I recorded a few, but it's really hard when I pre-record because then I have to edit and upload. It takes several hours, and I just don't find the time. And so I've pre-recorded a few, never got around to editing or putting them up. And then by the time I do, the news is like old news. So I just haven't gotten around to doing that. So Rita from Kansas. Hello, Rita. Thank you for joining. Jonice is back. She missed our last live and it's been so long. So nice that some of the familiar faces, especially the ones that I see in our Facebook group, are here too. So I'm just so glad to be able to be back and just to be able to update. I started feeling guilty for a while because I've been sometimes the longer you let it go, the easier it is to postpone it a little longer. And I just did not want to get into that. So, but as you know, if you follow me for a while, life is busy. So, and also, it's been a while. So I'm almost 6 years into my grief journey. I've covered so many big topics that sometimes I just feel like what am I going to talk about? So I don't want to get on here every week or other week and just it be the Leo update show. I do want to update you on things that are going on, but this channel is not about just me and my kids and my life and things like that. I want to bring up topics that I am experiencing or have experienced, but that's also going to be something you can relate to that may help you to grow, help you in your grieving process and things like that. So I don't want to just get up here and ramble about my life and not give you any kind of tidbits that you can take with you that will help you. So, but it has been so many weeks, and there's been some things that have happened, that are grief related that I can share with you that you might be able to relate to. So I think enough stuff has happened and gone on that I have a little bit to share. And I probably just need to sit with a good brainstorming session and just come up with some more topics of things to talk to you about that I can share with you. We've had a ton of new people on our group. Our group is growing like crazy. Every day I go on there's like 20 new people that are trying to apply to get in. So I'm trying to keep up with the applications of people trying to come into the group. So, it's awesome that more people are reaching out and finding us because I think that it's a great place for them to come and to share their experiences and to get support because our group is just an awesome place to get support. We have such great members. I'll just do a couple of little intros of the people who are on introducing themselves. AJ McDonald from Ontario. Tammy says, "Hello, I'm Tammy from Minnesota." Uh, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Madrone 77. Harriet from Florida. Sun Scorpio says, "Hi, Kim from Minnesota." Simona, hello, good to see you from Sydney. Another Australian is joining us. That's awesome. I think it's really early morning for you guys over there. Pam says it's been almost 2 years for me. I can't even imagine 6 years. So Pam, it's believe it or not, it does get. I don't want to say it gets easier, but after 6 years, it's just a different type of grief. There's a little bit more guilt when you realize that you have not spent some time to grieve for a while. And then you're moving on with your life, doing things. And I know we're not supposed to say moving on, but we're doing stuff. And so it's just a different dynamic. It's a completely different dynamic. One of the things that makes it hard for it to be that many years ahead is that people who don't know you all that well, like maybe your people who you work with, or people just that you friends that you're with, acquaintances type thing, they 100% think that by 6 years out, you are not grieving anymore. You probably barely even remember them. And if you do cry about something or get sad about something, they probably think, they probably think something's wrong with us. Like if we're still grieving at this point, they probably wonder, that, why we're stuck in our grief or something like that. It's so hard to explain that, no matter what happens and no matter how much time goes by, that the grief never leaves. It changes, and there's ups and downs, and the dynamics of it change, and it does fade, and we do get better at dealing with it, and we don't think about it every single second. But I will talk about that's the topic of today, is kind of like how grief never leaves us. Okay, and I'll talk about the details of that, and something that kind of hit my mind when I was in the shower the other day, so I'll kind of talk about that. um and so Marcia says, does it get better? And so as I kind of explained that, it does. I like to use the analogy of going to the gym. Like if you're going to the gym, let's say you go into the gym and you try to pick up this heavy weight and you're not in shape. It's the first time you've been there. You can't even pick it up because it's just way too heavy. So you go and you start working out and you go regularly, and time goes by, and you know maybe a few years goes by and you have gone to the gym several times and you're getting in better shape, and you go back over and you pick up that same weight, and that same weight feels light. So the weight of the weight did not change. It's the same weight that it's always been. That's the grief. Okay. The grief in the very beginning is so heavy that we can barely manage it. It takes over our whole lives. We can't even pick it up. And so over time, no, the grief doesn't change. The loss doesn't change. It's still the same. We just get stronger and more capable, and we just get better at managing it. So that weight feels a lot easier to pick up after a while when we're in better shape, even though the weight didn't change. So we change. We grow, we adapt, we move forward, we make new memories, we might make new relationships. So, we learn how to live. We learn how to live without them, as sad as that sounds, but we have to do that in order to survive. So that's kind of the way that I would explain that. Madrone says it's 3 years next week. Christian says 2 months yesterday. I pray it gets better. So Christian, it's, um, I would say that first year is, I don't wanna say it's the toughest. For a lot of people, the first year is the toughest because that whole year you have to go through the first milestone of every single thing, the first anniversary, the first holiday, the first everything without your person for that first year. And so for a lot of people going through those first milestones, and then after that, things, we kind of get better at dealing with them. Some people do say that that second year is even tougher. It just depends. It was not tougher for me. It was tougher for a lot of people, simply because a lot of the first year were spent in numbness and denial, in like a fog. We're just kind of going through the motions. We're kind of like a robot. By that second year, you realize, wow, I just have to do this all over again, what I just did. And the numbness is gone, and the denial is gone, and the reality's kicking in. And sometimes it's a little harder even to deal with on the second year because you know what you're getting into that year. You're just doing another one of what you just did. So for some people, it's a little tougher that second year. But I would say sometime during that second year is when we kind of shift over into we find our new normal. As much as I hate that term, um, I mean, I still don't even like it. It's just the most applicable term. Like, it fits the best, even though I hate using it and saying it is the new normal. Like, it's our new life without them. And so, not a life we wanted, not a life we asked for, but it is the life that we have. And so it takes a while to accept that that's the way things are going to be. And then to try to figure out how to make our lives work without them. And so that's kind of how we have to do that. Susan is from Oregon, and some hugs and waves are being given to each other. I'm Tony from Whitby, Canada. So we got a few Canadians. We got some people from Australia. We got some people from US. Pam says, thank you for your wise words. So few people get it. Well, the people who don't get it are the people who are not grieving like we are. So the people who do get it, are the people who are in our group, people who are sharing the same type of loss. But sometimes it just takes somebody wording it a certain way, or saying it a certain way, or using a certain analogy that you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what it's like. And sometimes just sharing ideas and things with each other kind of helps us to process the things in our brain and make sense of it so that we can deal with it. Because if you can't make sense of it in your brain, it's hard for your heart to work it out. Your heart feels a certain way, your brain feels a certain way, you're confused, they're not talking to each other. So we got to work things out in our brain and make it makes sense to us. And then we can process it in our brain and tell our hearts how to feel and things like that. So it takes a while. Sue is here, says, "Hi, everyone." Kimberly says it's been 3.5 years and I feel like it's worse. So Kimberly, it might be, because of, like I said, the longer you are away from your person, the more you miss them. And so, but sometimes after a certain amount of time, if we don't feel like we're moving forward, um, that might be when we have to think about getting some help, getting some support, seeking medical help, seeking counseling type help, seeking self-help, reading some books, watching videos, whatever it is that we might need. Because, um, death is a part of our life process, and it is hard. It's very hard. And it's something sometimes you can't even grasp the bigness of it. But after a certain period of time, we should feel ourselves moving forward and accepting our new normal and figuring out how to make our lives work. And so after a certain point, if you put it this way, everybody grieves on their own timeline. We all know that, and I'm in 100% support of that. But if you as your own self starts wondering, have I been in this phase for too long? Like, should I be farther along in this grief process than I am? And it's been 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. If you're asking yourself that question, answer is probably yes. So you may be to a point where you've gotten as far as you can get by yourself, and you may need the help of some other support out there. And so there's nothing wrong with seeking support, because what can it hurt if you're already stuck in grief? What's it going to hurt to go out and try to find some kind of support? A Facebook group, a grief share, a group counseling, a single counseling, one-on-one counseling therapist, a psychiatrist, a doctor, medication, like I said, self-help books, watching videos. There's so much support out there, but if we don't seek it out, the longer it's been, see, when we're in fresh grief, everybody's coming to our aid, right? Especially in the first few months, people are bringing us food. A lot of times when Dewey first died, people would come. I had one lady especially who I worked with. She would take my kids to the movies or to swimming or to her house to do arts and crafts or something. She took the kids off my hands, which was a great break for me. So, it happens a lot in the beginning. People are like, what can I do? How can I help? How can I help? And then after a few months, everybody gets back to their life and they kind of forget that we're still here. And so after a year, the help does not come to the door anymore. And even if you ask for it, people who haven't lost like we have are like, why is she still needing help this far out? So after that, especially after that, if you tell somebody that you're still needing help, it's kind of it's almost like people are thinking, what's wrong with you? Like, what's your problem kind of thing. And so it's hard to tell people that far out, that you still need some support and need some help. And so that's a tough place to be. Let's see. Someone says it's been 20 months for me. This last year has been the hardest. Second year is worse. So like I said, a lot of people do feel like the second year is worse. That's a kind of a common thing that we hear from people. Not everybody, but it is a large group of people. Sun Scorpio 71 says just over 3 months for me. His birthday was last week. Very difficult. So I'll talk about some milestones in a few minutes and then how, that can affect us. Not normal at all. Make sure you hit the like button, please. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Somebody's marketing for me. So, right. So hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos. Do all the things because it always helps the channel. It'll help reach more people. The more people we can reach, the more people that we can help. And that's really, what this job, you see how I'm all about the job. This is what this channel is about. Reality, let's see, going back. Tammy Joe, first year, I was just trying to survive. Now the reality has hit hard. So yeah, so we're in survival mode for that first year, kind of numb, kind of robotic. And then the Band-Aid gets ripped off and it's sometimes harder on that second year. So Christian says reality just starting to, I think she meant seep in, and it's not fun. Yeah, it is. That transition from like fresh grief, where you're just going through all the motions and you're doing all the things that you have to do in the beginning, the funeral stuff and the probate stuff and the job stuff and the money stuff and, all the legal stuff and the logistics stuff that has to be done like one time. And then when you get done with that, then you're like, okay, now what? And then you have to figure out how to live without them. And so that's a tough transition. That usually happens a few months in. So let's see. Vicky says, "You have someone. You are good now." So, Vicky, I don't know if that's about for me specifically. If I'm good now, that I and yes, I am remarried. So those many of you know that I'm remarried, and which is one of the part of the reasons why I named the One Happy Widow. So, when I first turned the channel on, there was a lot of people, not a lot, a handful of people that were like, why do you even call yourself widow? Like, you're not a widow anymore. You're remarried now. So, but if this one's hard to explain, right? But and I think maybe it's hard to explain unless you are in, like you found love again, or you are in a relationship again, or you're remarried or something like that. But the widowed experience is still part of my life. The grieving experience is still part of my life. So, yes, I have found a husband, and yes, I am remarried. And did that help a lot of my grieving? Yeah. Am I as lonely as I was before? No. That's one of the ways that I've helped myself out of the grief, is to find love again, and not as a replacement. I'm just saying that's my new normal. Like, that's part of what I have chosen for my new life without my late husband. So, yes, I don't apologize for it, but no, it doesn't make everything better. It doesn't make the grief go away. It does not make the sadness go away. It does not bring my children's father back from the dead. They still are living without their dad and will for the rest of their lives. So it did not bring him back from the grave. And so, to make a simple statement and say, "You're good now," no, I'm not good now. Am I better? Yes. Would I have been better even if I hadn't remarried? Yes. So this is, my chapter two, if you want to call it that. Chapter two doesn't mean need to be a person. Chapter two is your next phase of your life without your late spouse. It's what you've chosen to do to move forward. So, again, it's not as simple as just saying, "Oh, well, I'm remarried, so I'm better. I'm better. Everything is fine, and I'm not grieving anymore," because that just doesn't. It's not realistic, and it's not how it is. Um, so, like I said, it's hard to explain how you can grieve and love again at the same time. If you've had several children, when you have one kid, you think, "Man, I can never love another child like I love this one. Like, there's just no more room in my heart because my heart is full." Then you have child number 2, and guess what? You love that kid just as much as you love the first one, and your heart just grows, to cover however many kids you got. So I guess it's kind of similar to that. And, loving one doesn't mean you have to stop loving the other. So it's a it's a it's a complicated growth situation, I guess you'd say. But it does not make the grief go away, you know. So let's see. Finding help made a huge difference, says Mary. So yes, it's we have to realize when it's time, when we need help. And so it's when we feel like we might need help and we don't go out and get it, especially after that first amount of time, right? Because after a while, people aren't going to come and offer help to our door. So we got to go out and find it and help ourselves and things like that. So that's where, if you feel like you're at that point, where you're ready to kind of switch over into that, what do I do now kind of thing, the grief pivot course could be good for you. I'm going to put the link right there, www.griefpivotcourse. I want to make sure I spell it right. Course.com. Okay, so Grief Pivot course, that's always open. So that's the course that I've created it's got a lot of exercises and things in there for to change your mindset and just kind of help you to develop new routines and rewire your brain to think in a different way. And so if you're interested in something like that, it's always available. So you can go. I put the link. It's in the link in the description. It's also in the link on the side where the chat box is. So let's see. Okay. So let's see. You hooked with someone. You can't relate now. Okay. Well, I've already discussed that. I've already kind of answered that situation, and so you either get it or you don't. So if you don't get it, then I can't explain it in a better way. But that's what I've done. And I'm remarried, by the way, so not I wouldn't call it hooked, but Tammy Joe, one-on-one counseling and grief share has been helpful. So yeah, I have found grief share was very helpful for me. I didn't finish it. I have a little story about that, but that's on another video. But I think the grief share itself was a good situation. It didn't fit with the members, didn't really fit with me. So I think if I went on a different round, it might be a little better. Too much. I feel like the only thing I didn't like about grief share was the videos were a little too long. I would have liked shorter videos and more time to just talk with the group, just like open discussion about whatever comes up. I think that would have benefited a little more on grief share. But otherwise, I do think it's very helpful. Tony says, I felt I was in a fog my first year. I was on autopilot to get things done. It's been 16 months since my husband's passing. Attending grief support group and my psychologist have been helpful. So that's good. Yeah, pretty much a lot of the things that we've already talked about. All of the responsibility all of a sudden and the decisions you have to make alone now. I'm finally starting to begin my new normal life. So that's a hard transition when you transition into like you're the only one making the decisions. Like you're deciding everything. In one way, it's very isolating and very scary. And there's parts of it that's a little bit freeing too, when you get to that point and you just kind of like, okay, well, it's all me now, which means, wow, I get to do whatever I want. And then you start feeling guilty because you had a little bit of like, oh, this is a little bit exciting for this new thing that I'm about to do. So, our whole lives are full of, when you're grieving the loss of your spouse, it is like I have found that it is nothing but a constant, what's the word I'm thinking of? Like a constant, not battle, but a constant journey, or like, I can't think of the word, but anyway, I'm constantly thinking like switching between grief and happiness and then guilt. Like you grieve and you're sad. And I feel like I have a hair on me. Like something's tickling my neck. Okay, so you grieve and you're sad about something, and then something comes up and that's new, like a new memory or something makes you happy and you're happy about that. And then you remember that you're widowed, and then you go back to being sad, and then you feel guilty because you felt happy. So it's like a constant, merry-go-round or a swing seesaw or whatever of these emotions that you have to learn how to navigate. And so I figured that would go away at some point, but so far it has not. Okay. Cause I have plenty of happy moments. And then I realize I've been some days and I haven't thought about Dewey at all. And I haven't grieved and I haven't, checked in with my kids about their grief journey or things like that. And I start feeling guilty because I'm like, wow, I was too busy being busy or too busy being happy or too busy moving forward. I haven't even thought about him in a few days. And then I feel guilty. And lather, rinse, repeat. And the cycle, keeps on going. So that's something that never stops. I think you just get better at accepting it. You get better at forgiving yourself for feeling guilty. Like you don't feel guilty as long, and you're just like, okay, it's okay. It's fine. You can laugh. You can be happy. You are allowed to move forward. You are allowed to find happiness. Like it's totally cool. And sometimes you're okay with it, and other times you're still going to feel guilty about it. And I don't know that that's ever going to go away. Like, I think you just have to learn how to reconcile and accept that that's just part of your roller coaster of grief that you're going to just learn how to live with for the rest of your life. Janet says, didn't know you were coming on. Darn, I'll have to watch this later. So I know sometimes I don't like to like say too far ahead of time and then something happened and me not be able to get on there. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I'm going live right now. And so I got to do it before I have time to change my mind. And then Tony says, you don't need to apologize. Your husband was a widower. That is true. Yes, my husband's also widowed. And we had some milestones on that this week too that I'll share. Pam says, I feel like it's more difficult for those of us who are introverts. My husband and I were best friends and did everything together. We were introverts and felt like we didn't need anyone but us. So I get that. Funny thing was, Dewey was a 100% extrovert. All he wanted to do was talk to people and be out and about and all that. And I am not. I am an introvert, which for a long time I didn't understand how that works. But an introvert does not mean somebody who can't be around other people or talk to other people. It just means that when you talk to other people, it drains your battery. Like it's work. Like I can do it and I'm good at it, and sometimes I enjoy it. But then after I'm done, it's like, whew, I gotta go back over here and read a book, get on my phone, sit by myself, recharge my batteries, things like that. Whereas Dewey would be like, if he was alone too much, that's what would drain his batteries. He would have to get out and be around people. And so that's hard for us to reconcile that, because he loved to do stuff with his family and I was good to stay at home. So, but I totally get that, how if you have 2 introverts that don't have a lot of outside friends and then one of you dies and the other one is like, "Well, now it's just me." So that has to be, a little tougher to deal with because you don't have as much of those social connections that you had before, so you're having to deal with things, um, alone. And so Mary says, "Hurt is hurt no matter what comes after." Yeah, I agree. Tony says, "Vicky, you are, out of line consciously." Yeah, I think they got the message. I think Vicky got the message. So, it's let's see, Marcia says, "I've been through grief share twice." Okay. Pam says, "Some same experience with grief share. I tried attending one group, it wasn't for me." And so, yeah, like I said, the how it was set up, I think was good. There, I finally got that hair that was tickling my neck. But yeah, there was for me, it was one specific person. It was a relatively small group, and that person dominated the conversation, and so it was really tough. And so I would start a story, and she'd kind of cut me off with her story, and then she'd go on, and it was hard to get back in. And so it was a little challenging. She was very nice, so I mean, that was apparently what she needed, but it wasn't what I needed. So, constant discovery, roller coaster ride, ups and downs. Yes, in between the happies and the guilty at times and the anger. So yeah, it's just a mix. It's just a mix of all kinds of different stuff. All right. So I will give y'all a quick update on what's going on here and why it's been so hard for me to get back on track on this, on a live, on a video, whatever. And then we'll talk about how grief, kind of affects, which I've talked about a little bit already. So, gosh, a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think of the last time I came on and like what I have told you guys and what I don't want to share stuff over again, but there's just been a lot of changes and a lot of stuff has gone on. So, my oldest child moved in with us for a little while because she was in between jobs, along with my grandson. So he was able to come in and stay with us for some days, so which was nice. But he was there on the weekends, which is the only time that I had downtime. Because if you followed me for a while, you know that my job is I work about 50 to 60 hours a week for my job. And so my weekends is the only time that I have to recharge. Speaking of being an introvert and all that, I'm a school teacher. So all I do is talk with people and students and other people and coworkers and things like that all week. Definitely drains me. And so when I get home on the weekends, I have to like kind of plug my social charger up and recharge. And that was when he was there. So he was there for like about 6 weeks. And so it was a little tough. But I didn't want to waste that time and not spend it with him. So I wanted to try to get up and because I knew it wouldn't last very long. He's 4 now. He just turned 4 in January. And so he was there with us for a little while. And then she moved back out and, I don't want to get into a whole bunch of details, but after she left, it wasn't very nice. And mm, I feel like she was just pretending to be nice to us for a little while because she needed a place to stay. And then when she didn't need a place to stay anymore, then she decided she didn't want to be nice to us anymore. So she's got her own thing she's dealing with. And it's, you know what? That's her life. She's 25. So, I don't know. All 4 of my kids are dealing with their grief in a different way. And so she's dealing with hers in a certain way. And she's just going to have to do it. She's not with us in the house anymore. So, and then my second daughter, remember, she got married in November and she was living with her husband. My son, who just turned 18 in January and has graduated from high school for a while. And we've been trying to get him started on college. And so he's been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And so finally he said, I think I'm going to hold off for another semester. And I was like, well, you're not going to do that here because it's already been a year and a half. And yeah, you just keep putting it off. And I'm not gonna, like he can't stay. He's been graduated from college and he's 18. He's working a few hours at a Dairy Queen, but he's not really paying much bills and things like that. So I finally told him if he was going to stay with us, he had to be in college. We will help him if he's in college. If he's not going to want to be in college, he's going to have to figure out life, how hard it is without, or go to a trade school or get a skill or something like that. College is not for everybody, but a career is a skill, a trade, something that you can do for a career, not Dairy Queen for 15 hours a week. That's a great high school part-time job, right? So anyway, I guess he decided that he wanted to do his life his way. And so he decided to move out too. So What happened was all the siblings, besides my youngest daughter, who's still at home, is just turned 13, they all moved in together. So I got 3 of my siblings plus one of the siblings' husbands. They're all living, they upgraded to a bigger apartment. They're all living together again. So, I know they thought it was gonna be awesome and great, but they're fighting over who has to do the laundry and who has to do the, chores and the clean up the house, how they're gonna separate all the bills because the married couple is not wanting to split things a certain way, and they're starting to learn how to and they're newly married couple, and they have these other 2 people home, and so when there's an argument and one of them has the 2 siblings on her side against the one who doesn't have any siblings there, so you can imagine a 25-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 20-year-old, and an 18-year-old. Did I cover them all? And on the weekends, a 4-year-old. And 2 Great Danes and a cat or 2 or 3, I don't know, in an apartment together. But the one thing I can say is that except for the new husband, they're used to living together, right? Because they lived together their whole lives. And so I feel like, maybe they can help each other because they've all lost the same person. They've all lost daddy, so they can maybe support each other that way. They're used to, they grew up in the same house, so they ought to be able to learn how to live together. But my fear is that if stuff falls apart and they all get evicted, they're all going to be homeless at the same time showing up at my doorstep. So keep your fingers crossed. And if you pray, say some really hard prayers for my children not to get kicked out of their apartment and show up and have to move in with me because I don't think I can handle it. So, a lot of updates with the kids. Also, if you've noticed, I was trying to grow my hair out, mostly for my husband's sake, because he's like, "I've never seen you with long hair." And I was growing out my hair, I was growing out the color and all that stuff. And the more it grew, the more I hated it. I just did not like it. I couldn't fix it. I didn't like how it looked, etc. So I finally just told JP, I was like, "Look, I don't like my hair. I hate it. I just don't I can't handle going through," and it would have been like another year or more before it grew out to like a decent longer style. So I was like, I can't do it anymore. I just want to cut it. And finally he was like, I don't like it either. He finally told me he didn't even like it. And so I was like, why didn't you tell me like 2 months ago? I wouldn't have had to go through all this shit. And so he was like, yeah, if you want to cut it off, you go ahead and cut it off because I like it short. It's the way I met you. It's the way I think about you and your pictures and all that stuff. So he was not wanting to hurt my feelings. But when I told him I finally was sick of it and wanted to just cut it short again, he was like, "Yeah, go ahead. You got my support." So I cut it short again, shaved it up in the back, colored it again, and this is just gonna have to be me. So and that, I'm just a short-haired person. I went short in 2016, I think it was. I don't think I'll ever be able to grow my hair out again. So this is it. This is the way it is, and this is the way it's gonna stay. Um, let's see. Job, again, still really busy. However, I think I have 27 more work days to go. 27. And like 3 of those are without kids. And so we're like getting down to the wire. May 26th is the last day for students. And then we come back the next week for a couple days for like in the beginning of June for post planning. And I will be clearing out my room and I will be leaving that school and going to my new job. I have been sort of transitioning to the new job for some training. And so I've been doing some extra meetings and some extra trainings, and I've been shadowing some people, but still having to do my regular job. And so it's actually caused me to have more work because I'm doing my job plus a little bit of the new job so I can sort of learn how to do it because I have no idea what I'm doing on this new job. And so I don't even know what to ask because I don't know what I don't know. And so it's going to be a big learning curve next year, but I'm very excited. And so, but it's kept me extremely busy and really tired on the weekends. Um, let's see. We did go to Tennessee for spring break, so that was really fun. It was the first time in over a year that we had been on a trip at all. And so we couldn't believe it. And like we were like, when was the last time we went anywhere? And it was also to Tennessee. We like to go to Gatlinburg and then kind of between Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, and we spent 4 days, 5 days and 4 nights or whatever, and it was really nice. We didn't even take the kids. We just went by ourselves. We'll take, Dallas with us to the beach this summer, for her vacation, but, yeah, it was a well-needed break, very well needed. Did a lot of karaoke, did a lot of shopping, ate a lot of candy, just saying. I'm on I don't know if I've even told y'all this. I'm on doing the carnivore diet. I'm trying it to see how it goes. It's working out really well, but on vacation, there's just no way I was gonna eat like that. On vacation, I was just gonna eat what I wanted to, and it did not make me feel good. Okay, when you're eating like you're supposed to eat and then you eat junky for a few days, it's nothing but, you know, feed your body healthy food because when you don't, your body protests, okay? That's all I'm gonna say about that. Um, so that's basically all the updates. We had a milestone, about a week ago. So, JP, he's a widower. On April 17th was the 4-year anniversary of his wife's death. And so he took it pretty rough, to be honest. I was like, okay, well, this is number 4. It was a fourth anniversary. So I was like, he'll probably be okay. He'll probably be okay. I don't think he'll take it too much, but it hit him pretty bad. He had to work. And when he got home, he's like, yeah, I've been crying most of the day. And I was surprised. I was like, "Wow, okay." But I mean, I'm not judging. It just surprised me that at this point that he would be, that it would have hit him that hard. But it did. And that's okay. I was there for him. I had to sometimes for that day, he wanted to be kind of close and clingy. And then I could tell for the next little while, he would be kind of deep in his thoughts and he didn't really want me to be there. So I just kinda stayed off to the side. I would be, like, in the same room as him, but I didn't wanna press. Like, I didn't ask a bunch of questions. I didn't wanna get in his space. I just waited for him to come to me for a hug or for him to talk about a memory that he wanted to share with me when he was ready. I just kinda stayed, just where he knew that I was there, but I didn't wanna press into his space. And the whole time I was like, "Gosh, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should ask. I don't know if I should, like, just come up and give him a hug." I was a little lost, and so since I didn't know what to do, I just kinda stayed sorta close and in the vicinity just in case he needed me. And at the next day, actually, he told me, he said, "You know what? You were just what I needed yesterday. You were close when I needed you close. You gave me space when I needed space." And I kinda went back and forth, and I wasn't even sure what I wanted, but you were there just in case. So it turns out me not knowing what to do and just kinda hanging around just in case, that's exactly what he needed me to do. So I didn't know that I was doing right, and I was doing right. So, anyway, um so yeah, that was the milestone, and then that was on Monday. Tomorrow, which is also Monday, a week later, is JP's birthday. Well, when Crystal died, they buried her a week after she died, so he had to bury her on his birthday. So, unfortunately, his birthday is connected to a milestone and a memory, of burying his wife. And so tomorrow's his birthday. We'll celebrate it, we'll do presents and cake and all that stuff. We'll go out to eat, but it's also going to be mixed with some memories and some milestones and some sadness and things like that because it's going to bring back those memories for him of him having to bury his wife that day on his birthday. And so it's probably like he has 2 days right in a row, 1 week apart, the anniversary of her death and then his birthday when he buried her. And so those 2 are kinda linked together, and so this whole week, kind of up and down with lots of milestones. And then, like a couple weeks ago, we were, and I've been really busy, let's put it this way. I've been really busy with the kids, with my job, with helping out JP with his milestones and all these things. And so, I haven't really been grieving myself, not actively. And so, I guess and sometimes I go through those motions and I'm like, "Wow, I haven't even really thought about stuff." But guess what? When you do that for a while, it's gonna come back and get you. Like, grief is just waiting in the background. He's just waiting for a weak moment to attack. And so, we were watching this movie. JP had picked it. He was like, "You gotta watch this movie. It's so good." He totally forgot about some of the, um he totally forgot about, like, some of the topics in the movie, and it was a movie about how the group called Mercy Me had made it, like, the lead singer, his life if you've heard, I Can Only Imagine, it's like a Christian song, it's a Christian group called Mercy Me, and anyway, it was kind of like a story about his life and his childhood and how he came to be and became famous and all that stuff. And so he was like, "Yeah, it's such a good movie. You got to watch it with me." I said, "Okay." So I'm watching it, and he had totally forgot about this. But if you know about the guy, if you've seen the movie, the guy's dad gets cancer, pancreatic cancer. And so he starts wasting away and getting sick, and his son is like there with him to help him. And so as soon as I saw the thing about the pancreatic cancer, I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can handle this." Like I can hear about cancer. I can see a movie that might have a scene about it, but it was like a lengthy time where the a good portion of the movie was about him watching his dad die of cancer. And so it was many scenes for a long time. I didn't even get through it. I didn't get through the rest of the story because I started getting choked up, and it like all it did was take me mentally right to that time where Dewey was sick and I was by his side and I was at his bed and I was watching him waste away and the kids and not knowing what to do and how to manage like all these things. Like it took me right back. It was probably some PTSD. Like it was tough. It's probably the worst I've been triggered from a movie in a long time, maybe ever. And so I just couldn't take it anymore. And so I'm over there like sniffling and crying or whatever. And I finally was like, I mean, I didn't even say anything. I got up and I went to the bathroom, like locked myself in the bathroom because I just didn't want to burden my husband with my grief, which was stupid. Like he understands and he would have been there and everything. But I'm still that person who grew up being told, there's no crying in baseball, big kids don't cry, suck it up, rub some dirt on it or whatever, stop crying, just whatever, all that stuff. Like crying is bad, crying shows weakness, don't bother me with that crying stuff or whatever. My dad was not a very compassionate guy or whatever. So like all that's coming up, I'm not wanting to bother him with my grief. I'm not wanting to burden him with my crying. So I'm in there, but it was rough. Like it hit me for a couple days. And I'm like, wow, here I am, 5.5 years out. And this movie is putting me right back to that moment again. And so it's still there. And then that goes back to, hold on a minute. I'm looking at my notes. Oh, um, that goes back to where I was talking about grief never leaves us. Like I was in the shower and I was like, I don't even remember the thought, but I was in the shower and like a thought of a date or something came up. And I started thinking like every single thought that you have when you've lost your spouse, when a date comes up or a memory comes up of a date, you immediately attach it to, was that before they died? Was that during the time they were sick, if it was a terminal illness, or was that after they died? Like that death day is a firm rip in the reality of your life. Like everything in your life at that point is either before they died or after they died. And every thought that you have, every memory that you have suddenly gets attached to, was that when he was still alive or was after he died? Like it all has to get attached to that one little piece of information. I don't know if that's how it works with y'all, but that's how it has been with me. Like every memory I have, I'm like, was he alive then? Oh yeah, that was when he was still alive. Was he? Oh yeah, that was like 2 years after he died. Like everything gets attached to that turning point. So the whole memory of my life, of my past, everything in my past is one of two places: when he was still alive or since he has died. And I don't know why, but it has, like, I don't know that it will ever be any different. And so that's why the topic for today was that the grief never leaves us. Like it's always a part. You might not think of it every single day, but it's like always, it's just a part of all of your thoughts. It's a part of everything you do. It's a part of all of your decisions. And it's hard to explain that to somebody who's not going through it. It doesn't mean you're crying about it every day, and it doesn't mean like you're sitting around sad about it all the time. It's just like a piece that's in there all the time, and it never unattaches in some way to every thought that you have or every decision that you make or every memory that you have. I don't know if that's the same as everybody else, but that has been my experience. So, and also I was talking to a woman at work. This is my last little story, about how grief still kind of is there and the widowhood situation is still there. But a woman that I work with, She just got married recently, like within, I don't know, within the last month or so. And so I just sat down and I was like, "So how's married life? And how did you meet your husband?" And she's like, "Yeah," she's telling me about how she met her husband online on a dating app. And I was like, "Me too." And I told her how hard it had been. And that when I finally, and I told her that I had been widowed. And so how hard it was sometimes to date some guys who were divorced because they would try to, some of the dates that I had gone on, the men tried to say, I had tried to compare the pain of divorce to my pain of being widowed as if there's any kind of correlation or there any kind of like, it's not a competition, right? But some of it was pretty ridiculous. But I was just sharing those things with her and she was like, "Oh, well, I'm widowed too." Like I had no idea. Because it's not like you just walk up and introduce yourself and say, "Hi, my name's Leo and I was widowed 5 years ago, but I'm remarried and so I'm good," like Vicky would say, right? It's not like it just comes up in like casual conversation. So I was like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea." I was like, "Well, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, you know, like you can relate." And she was like, "Oh yeah." So anyway, we had something that we bonded over and we talked about it a little bit. And I gave her the link to the Facebook group and um, the the YouTube channel or whatever, and just let her know she could join us in our group if she wanted to. Very nice lady. So I don't see her on here. If you're here, you can shout out. But anyway, um, you don't meet many fellow widows or widowers very much when you're like still of working age, I guess you could say. It's just not as common. You think of it more commonly when people are retired or old people, if you want to call it that, right? Like I'm becoming one of those people. But in our like even when you're a little kid, you think, oh, you don't get widowed until you're old. You expect the old person to be widowed. But what is old anymore? I don't even know. Because I don't feel old. My body feels old. My brain does not feel old. So let's see. I'm going to go back through some of the chats. And then if there's any questions or comments, I'm going to wrap it up. Um, Also, if you have ideas of like topics that I need to think of, because I'm running dry, guys. Like I don't want to talk about the same thing over and over again, but I don't want to. I want to keep doing the videos because I know it's helpful to people. So if you have, I have a couple of topics I want to work on, but I have to do a little bit of research. Let me see. Uh, 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 uh. I'm trying to find out where I left off. Not too far. Thank you for doing these live chats. You are very kind to come do this on a Sunday evening. Thank you, Tony. It's one of the few free times that I have. My husband's upstairs doing all of his pre-work, getting ready for his milk tickets, for he's a milkman, so getting ready for his delivery day tomorrow. And so I'm down here doing this. Kay says, diagnosed with vascular dementia and average length of life 5 years. I'm grieving him. I still have him. It's pure torture. I lose a little bit of him every day. It's like a long death. Mm. So, Kay, that's basically a terminal illness, right? So it's because you just said the lifespan was 5 years. And so you are going through what we call anticipatory grief. And so it's a place of limbo that you're in. It's like you're already grieving the loss, because you know that they are going to be gone at some point. You don't know exactly when. You're already starting to lose him little by little. So you're grieving about that. But you're still trying to make the most of the time that you have with him. And so it's bittersweet because every moment that you're with him has that little attachment of that idea that there's a limited amount of time left. And so totally get that. So you're already grieving. You're already in the grieving stage. And so the transition to grief, after you become widowed from a terminal illness is a little bit different of a process than it is for someone who loses their spouse to a sudden death. I'm not comparing as far as competition. It's just there's just differences. Obviously, one's not better than the other because the end result is all the same. But I do have a few videos that talk about those differences, and so if you want to look for those, I discuss that a little bit. Carla says, watching from Oregon, I appreciate your videos in this group. It's been almost 15 months for me. It's still unreal, but you all help. So that's one of the toughest like transitions to make because it does seem like it's unreal. Like it just seems like, oh, that's another thought I had in the shower this morning, as a matter of fact. And I was like, sometimes it's still hard to accept the fact that he's actually dead because it still kind of feels like he's just gone. And then I started thinking, well, what's the difference? Dead is gone and gone. Like It's the same, right? But I guess in your mind, gone means that they could come back. Dead means they're gone and never coming back. So that's the biggest difference. But sometimes I think just in order to survive or get through the day, it's just my mind thinks about it as he's just gone. He's been gone for a really long time. And then I just stop there. And so that could be the reason why I don't like going to the cemetery. I've only been once. Maybe it's because it's just a reminder, that he actually is dead, not just gone. Because he was in the military, so there was a lot of times he was gone. He always came back. I mean, obviously, I know he's not coming back, but that's the part. The not coming back part is the part that means the difference between being gone and being dead. I don't know if that's I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but, then I started thinking about if y'all have ever seen the movie Forrest Gump, this is the first time I thought about this, but in Forrest Gump, then he asks the woman who's trying to get the mom, she's trying to get her son into the, regular school, and the guy asks, "Hey, is there a Mr. Gump, Mrs. Gump?" She's like, "He's on vacation." And then Forrest hears that, and so she ends up doing some things in order to get her son into the school. But anyway, he asks her later on, "Mama, what's vacation mean?" And she says, "Well, it means that you go somewhere and you don't ever come back." And I've seen that movie 1,000 times. I love that movie. But in my mind, I always thought it meant that he left. Like the dad left and he's never coming back. And then today was the first time I really thought, "Oh, you know what? When she says he's gone and he's never coming back, I bet he died." But my mind never even went there. But I think that's what she meant. He's gone and he's never coming back. I think she just didn't wanna tell her son that he died because, of his mental capacity and just, to help him or whatever, but I thought, "Wow, that's the first time my brain has ever, like, gone there instead of just thinking he walked out on the family and he just never came back. Because she had this big house and she seemed to be able to support herself, like, how did she do all that with her husband walked out on her? And now I'm like, "Wait a minute. I bet he died, and he probably just left her all of that." So, anyway, totally off topic. Um, Janet says, Leo says it's called anticipatory grief. Yes. So I have a couple of videos about that. I probably should do one specifically about that because my first one was like mixed into the story of Dewey's death and his cancer and stuff. So those are two long videos. Tony says you are an amazingly strong and loving mother to your 4 kids. Thank you. That's very sweet. You could probably ask them right now, and the oldest 3 would not say so because it seems like that now that mom's not financially supporting them anymore, they don't want to talk to me right now. So, I don't know how that works. Like maybe I should start another channel about how to how to let your children fly the coop without like I don't know. I can't give that advice because I'm not doing a very good job of that. My kids, I call them boomerang kids. They leave, they come back, they leave, they come back. I don't know. From day to day, I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't give any parenting advice because I don't feel like I'm a very good example of that. Mm. I probably need to watch some videos about how to be a better parent. So, let's see. Mary says, "Hang in there. The end is in sight." And Tony says, "How sad that JP had to bury his wife on his birthday." I know, right? And JP has his own business. And there's nobody else. It's just him. And so his wife died like on a Wednesday or something or Tuesday. I can't really remember, but the point is, he had to go to work the next day, like because he delivers milk and there's nobody else to do it. And so the day after his wife died, he had to go to work for that day and the next day. I can't even imagine. Like he didn't get to take, bereavement leave or anything. He just had to keep going. I think he was able to switch his route around a little bit so that he could bury her, and that was it. I can't even imagine. Watch that movie. It's a beautiful song. Yes, Dewey's grandmother had that song played at her funeral. I Can Only Imagine song. Grief bursts are tough. Some movies do that to me as well. So true, Leo. I'm the same way, Leo. Indeed, grief always hovers. So we kind of get the gist, right? Like grief is it's like the salt, that sprinkles over flavors our entire life with grief flavored salt, saltiness. um, so Marcia says, "I'm old and I work." I know, right? Like, yeah, I'm old too and I work. So I don't know when I'll be able to stop. Pam says, "There's a couple at my church in their 70s. They were both widowed after lifetime marriages. They met when they struck up conversation at Dollar General store, and they've not." and they've now been married for 5 years. What a nice little story. That's so great. So now even in their later years, they get to have somebody to just to spend time with. That's really sweet. Coming home to an empty house is a good topic. Okay, so I'll have to put that on my list. Coming home to an empty house. Carla, your comments on time markers is the same as BC and AD, but on a personal scale. Right, right, right. I can't even comment on how much. Yep, that's pretty much how it is. Retired old, right? Okay, so that's what it is. If we're retired or old, well, I guess maybe I'm not old yet because I am not going to be able to retire for at least 10 more years. Um, I would love to see you discuss guilt about not doing more to diagnose your person, moving on, etc. Okay, that's a good topic too. Guilt. I kind of sprinkle that into most of my conversations, but I haven't really done a video, especially on guilt. So that's a good topic too. So I'm gonna have to write these down before I forget them. Future topics, tips on moving forward, dealing with in-laws. You know what, Tammy Joe, how long have you been listening to my channel? Because I think I recognize your name, but you do not need a lesson from me on how to deal with the in-laws because I don't deal with mine very well. So we'll just put it that way. And if y'all know, Mama, she is a piece of work. I don't even call her my in-law anymore. I just call her my kid's grandma. And so there's many reasons why that I won't talk about, but I'm not one to probably talk about dealing with in-laws. Although I've heard a lot of different stories, so I could probably talk about it from some other people's experiences. Discussion. So discussion about guilt. Okay. So guilt's coming up a little bit. So that's probably what I need to make some topics on. So, and then there was something else I probably wanted to talk about too. Now I cannot think about what it was, but I don't know. I have to make a list because my mind thinks about something and then totally forgets it. Pam says, "I love your honesty and keeping it real." So I don't know how any other way to be. You know what I mean? Because so many people. We talked at work about how one of our coworkers, his mother, it was his grandmother, but he was raised by her. So she was kind of like a mother and she died last week. And our department chair, she's like, I don't know how to deal with this death stuff. Like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do for it as a department. I don't know. I was like, let's collect some money. We'll get a spray to send to the, funeral home, etc. And she was like, I don't know how to do any of that stuff, So I said, okay, so I'm taking that on. Like, I have so much, she was like, "Yeah, you have experience, so you go ahead and do that." Like, I have so much experience with, funerals because my husband was in one. I don't know, that was 6 years ago, and trust me, I don't remember hardly any of it. Like, somebody gave me a half of a blue pill that morning, and that was about all she wrote. I remember a little bit, but that's about it. Um, so grief overload when more than one death occurs with a short time span. I did talk about that in a video, but I don't know if it was like the main topic of a video. So I'll have to go check that out and see. I call mother-in-law Paul's mum for the same reason. Figure my connection to her is gone. So yeah, I mean, technically it is. So at that point, if you're still in a relationship by choice, that's awesome. But that's a tough one. That is a tough one. I did talk about there was a video I talked about how the dynamics of your, friends and family change after the death of your spouse. And so I did talk about some in-law stuff and family stuff in that one. So, and like I said, as far as being real, the funeral thing we were talking about. And I said, that's when I started talking about, people, they don't know because they don't know how to act around people who are grieving. If you haven't lost a spouse, you have no idea how to talk about it. And so one of two things usually happens. You say nothing and you ignore it, and then people feel like you don't care. Or you say something stupid, because you just don't know. You want to say anything. And so you say something comes out inappropriate, or you say something dumb or offensive. And then later on, you're like, dang, I don't know why I said that. We've all had that person who said something stupid to us, and we're like, I can't believe they just said that to me. And that's probably another video. Like, there's every widow who has a channel has a video about what not to say to a widow, except me. Like, I've been collecting that list for so long, and I want it to be a good one, and I kind of want it to be a funny one, but I've only done like one really funny video about it, about grief. It didn't go over very well. We lost a lot of people on the channel, and they just were offended, and so it just didn't strike. People who are in fresh grief did not appreciate that we were like making light of our grief. Um, but sometimes that's what I do. So anyway, I would like to make a funny video about what not to say to a widow and just really make light of it. Because really, I'm not making fun of our grief. What I'm doing is making fun of the people who are too dumb to realize what they're, or too ignorant, or too selfish, or just too out of it, or just too whatever word you want to say. But it would be making fun of them, not making fun of us. So maybe people would um, take to that. But I really would like to make a parody of that. And so that's why I haven't done it yet, because I want it to be um, just right. So maybe that'll be one of my projects this summer, is to make like a well-edited comedy skit about stupid things that people say to widows. Because I just want to get in character and be that other person, be that Karen who says the inappropriate things or whatever. So I've had some day. Now you can do what you want. I would appreciate a funny video. Okay. So maybe, maybe it's time, because back then we did it. It was when the channel was new and people were like, I cannot believe you did that. So anyway, sometimes that's how you have to deal with it. You can either cry about it, you can laugh about it. And a lot of times I laugh about it. And other people are like, wow, that's inappropriate, but I can't cry about everything. So, all right. So we've gone just over the hour mark. Um, I'm still drinking on my coffee from I slept till 1 o'clock, guys. Not gonna lie, because I've been sick. That's another reason I didn't do a video last week. I had no voice. And so I just been sleeping to try to catch up. And so I made my coffee at like 2 p.m. And this thing right here, still hot. Go get you one of these. Go to my I have a link. I have a link to this on Amazon. What is it called? Kit.co, kit.co/ one happy widow, I think is what it is. And it's got all kinds of stuff about, I'll put it in the chat box. I believe that's how you can find it. Anyway, you can go there and find links to Amazon stuff that I use, or that I've read, or that I recommend, whatever. They are affiliate links, so I get a few pennies off of each of those things. But anyway, that Contigo, the coffee cup here, it's my lifeline. I have it with me all the time. So and then I just want to talk about this summer, my plans for this summer. So, and if you need to go, then got it. So but the plans for this summer for the channel, that I can't do a whole lot of stuff that's going to reel me into lots and lots of time, because I know that when fall starts and I go back to my full-time job, I don't want to set something up that takes a bunch of my time and then leave everybody hanging and not be able to continue that service when school starts again. But my website is being moved over to a new server, and so it's been like that for a couple months now. So this summer I'm going to be finally setting everything up. So if you try to go to some links that are on and you don't see anything, it's because I still haven't moved all of my website stuff over to the new server. So that's going to happen. I would like to start a community, but I know that's going to take a lot of time, and I don't mind doing it. I really want to do it, and I would be able to do a great job at it in the summer. But what I'm afraid of is having like a paid community where people come in and we can talk about specific topics, and we can do challenges together, and we can do goals together, and we can do um, book club and read books, and do craft times and crochet alongs and sew alongs and stuff like that. What I'm afraid of is doing that, and it takes up a whole bunch of my time, and it's awesome. And then I go back to work, and then I can't provide that same amount of attention, and I don't want things to fall off. So I might be able to entrust the help of some people to maybe help me out with that. And so that it's just something in my brain that I would like to do down the road. And so, yeah, pretty much that. And I think I want to also incorporate some one-on-one coaching. And so, because I know a lot of people, they email me a lot of times and they're like, I have some questions. Here's my situation. What do you think about this and this? And it's really tough for me I can't just give a short answer. You guys see that I'm long-winded, right? And so if I address that and I'm giving, advice or my experiences or whatever, it takes a lot of time. And so I'm doing that just on my own, as part, I'm taking my own time out to do that. But sometimes I feel like I do all of this for the good of people. And this is what I do. Like I get this much money from my channel, like $80 a month. Like it's not like I'm, getting rich off of these things that I do. Right. So what I'm getting out of that is it's my own therapy, but I also am helping people. Right. Because I hear the feedback from people and I think it's helping them. And so that makes me feel better. So for me to be able to help people one-on-one, I would love to do that too. But that's where it's cutting into more of my time that I have for my family, my time that I have for my job, my time that I have my downtime for myself. So I'd like to be able to just put limits on that, because right now, if I don't have limits on it, then I feel obligated to help everybody the same. And so no matter how many people email me personally, I feel like I need to give those same amount of responses and that same amount of energy to each person. And because I don't want to slight anybody. And so what I need to do is with that one-on-one time, I need to slice pieces of my time out and be compensated for that, because I can, first of all, limit the amount of time so that I'm not, running myself dry. But also I don't feel guilty about saying, well, I answered her email, but I didn't answer her email, instead of feeling like that. So if that makes any sense. And that way, if people really want to have one-on-one coaching and they feel like that's what they need, then, they're willing to compensate me for my time, and I'm willing to give them as much of that time as I'm available. Everybody wins, right? So anyway, that's what I'm trying to set up to. All right, guys. Well, coming home to an empty house and keep on keeping on. And so we got Kelly. Yes. So Kelly, up above earlier, we talked about coming home to an empty house. So that might be a topic that I'll be hitting on another topic on another video later on. So that's on my list. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming in. We've got a nice little group of people that have come in today, and I will try not to make it another 5 or 6 weeks before I come back. So maybe 2 weeks from now, when it's getting real close to summer. I got 5 weeks, guys. 5 weeks to summer. I can't wait. All right, guys. Oh, wait, Sonoy. Did I know this already? I think I knew this already, because I used to live in Sonoy. That's where I moved from this house. So, Pam, did we know this already? I think we talked about this. So I lived in Sonoy and moved, or Sonoa or Sonoya, depends on how long you've lived there, right? I called it Sonoy, some called it Senoy. Just depends. Depends on, you can tell how long somebody's lived there as to how they pronounce it. But yeah, I used to live there in Heritage Point subdivision, if you know where that is. It's almost to Fayetteville. Anyway, so maybe we can get Sonoya. So you're new then. You haven't been there for very long, have you? That's gonna be my guess. So, Pam, you know what? This summer we need to meet up. We need to meet up for coffee or lunch or something like that. So you need to email me so we can get together. 5-week countdown to summer vacation. All right. Okay, we'll see you later, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.